If you've experienced toxicity from the Monster Hunter community, you're not alone. If you've spread toxicity in the Monster Hunter community, you also are not alone. You may have been on either or both ends of it and not even realized it. Just so we're on the same page, here are some common examples of toxicity in the Monster Hunter community. You join a quest and one or all of the players in the quest tell you to change to a different weapon type because yours is low DPS. You join a hub and the players make fun of you because you're using too many comfort skills. You ask for help on how to fight a monster and the only response you receive is, "Get good." You join a Discord and are shouted down for suggesting a build that goes against that Discord's meta. You're banned from a Discord for questioning their gameplay methods or tactics. You refer to other players as randoms and assume they're terrible at the game. You create a subreddit for mathematically calculating the best objective way to play the game, and all the members downvote anyone who dissents from the generally accepted beliefs. If you've tried to interact with other players in the Monster Hunter community, chances are something like this has happened to you. These kinds of behaviors lead to people feeling like they're doing something wrong merely by playing the game the way they want to, like they're playing the game wrong, like the way they're enjoying the game is bad and that they should be ashamed of it. You can see that it's also possible that you're engaging in toxic behavior, all the while thinking that you're actually helping people. Now, I'm not here to shame you. I'm just pointing out some examples and definitions around the word toxicity so we're all on the same page for the rest of this discussion. Am I guilty of this behavior? I'll be the first one to admit that some of my statements have made people feel like I'm criticizing them personally. For that, I do apologize. Even when I think my message of play the game how you want is pretty clear, sometimes the message comes across as judgmental. But there's a big distinction here. Telling people they don't have to play a certain way is very different from telling people they should be playing a certain way. It's this demand to conform to a particular play style that permeates all the toxic behavior in the Monster Hunter community. So where does this pressure to conform come from? I know it's just what humans do in all walks of life, but there's more to it than that. In other aspects of society, fads come and go. In the Monster Hunter community, the toxicity has always been about conforming to a very specific type of play. You might have noticed a pattern in these examples of toxic behavior and in the ones you've experienced. Almost every time someone in the community makes you feel like shit, or when you inadvertently make someone else feel like shit, it has to do with the topic of how to do the most damage in the shortest possible time. Your first reaction might be, well, isn't that the point of the game, to finish the quest quickly and progress through the game? After all, there's a quest timer. Capcom didn't want you to go quickly. Why would they set a time limit? And if this is your first thought, I'm going to point out to you that A, most people don't care about finishing the quest as fast as possible. B, many people enjoy the game so much that they take their time on quests. C, most players don't spend hundreds of hours on the game and are happy just to successfully complete the quest at all. The point of any game is to enjoy it any way that you want, and there's no implicit or explicit mandate that you're supposed to be finishing quests in the quickest time that you can manage. So why is there so much pressure to do this? Why do so many people tell us to play faster and do more damage in a shorter amount of time? In order to answer that question, we have to understand where the idea comes from in the first place and then examine if and how this idea gets promoted to the community as a whole. We're all aware that there is an extremely small subset of the Monster Hunter community that enjoys the process of making their quest completion timer show the lowest number possible. These people are called speedrunners. Most games have a speedrunning community, and the practice can be highly competitive. Speedrunning is a fairly common way for people to create a competitive aspect to a game that was designed to be exclusively cooperative in nature. For Monster Hunter, the quest ends when the monster's health hits 0, or the monster's captured, which is also triggered at a health level threshold. And the only way to lower a monster's health meter is to do damage to it. So The amount of damage you can do over a given period of time is functionally equivalent to your quest completion time. For a quest which has a monster with 10k health, saying you have an average DPS of 100 per second is mathematically equivalent to saying your quest time is 1 minute 40 seconds. So you can see that whenever you're talking about DPS, you're also talking about quest completion time, whether you realize it or not. When you focus on increasing your DPS to the exclusion of other aspects of the game, you're confirming that you value lower quest completion time above all else. And this value is the dearest held value of the Monster Hunter speedrunning community. It is spread throughout the rest of the community and has permeated almost every discussion on every message board and chat server in existence. No matter what the topic, chances are someone will turn it into a discussion of DPS. And we just accept it. But why? Because consciously or not, we hold their accomplishments up as some type of ideal, as something that we can never achieve, but as a benchmark for what we can strive for, something against which we can measure our own performance. Even people who would never consider themselves a speedrunner still promote the idea that DPS is the single most important factor in the game. They may label it differently, like calling high DPS the meta, but it's still the same core value, faster quest times above all else. And we see this so often from so many different places that we internalize their dearest held value, unwittingly making it one of our own values. And in doing so, we lose sight of why it is we are playing this game. We lose sight of the things that really do make us enjoy it. And the process by which this happens is not a simple one. Maybe you do value lower quest time above all else. Maybe it's not the most important thing, but you definitely feel like you could improve it. After all, you might have a limited amount of time in your day to enjoy the game. You got a job, you got kids to feed, diapers to change. Faster quests would give you access to more of the game. Maybe higher DPS would actually allow you to achieve some of your other goals. And that's a reasonable argument, but DPS above all other aspects of the game? What are we sacrificing when we focus so heavily on DPS? How are these DPS communities really affecting the rest of us? How are their ideas spreading to the entire community? And are they really helping us to achieve our own personal goals? Those are the questions I'll be exploring in the next video. In the meantime, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Where do you think the toxicity of Monster Hunter comes from? Is it always related to questions of DPS? What are your core values for playing this game, and how has the community's focus on DPS affected you and how you play Monster Hunter?